whenever you go over the bell ringer, will you please make sure you explain it out loud so those on Google Meet can hear what you wrote down? And those of you at your seats need to make sure that you're paying attention so that way we know how much work to show. Today, as long as you had some work shown, I went ahead and accepted it. However, starting tomorrow, if you do not have enough work shown, you will not receive credit. So like I said, today all you had to do was just show me what you did to get your answer. So like if you wrote 35 plus 23 is 58, I went ahead and accepted that. But tomorrow I will not accept that. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so I did 35 plus 23 equals 58. And then I subtracted it from 180 and got 122. And then I did like a vertical angle theorem. And that is 122 plus 27 was 149. And then subtract 180 from 149 and got 31.
Thank you. Logan, tell us, do you agree or disagree?
I agree.
Okay, now my question is, you added 35 plus 23 and got 58. Then why did you subtract it from 180? Oh, yes, because the sum of all three of these angles has to add up to 180. Does everyone agree with that? So all three of these have to add up to 180. So if this is 35 and this is 23, then this one would have to be 122 degrees because they all three have to add up to 180. And something I like that you pointed out was that these two angles are vertical angles. And what do we know about vertical angles all the way back from like chapters 2 and 3? They're congruent. So if this angle is 122, this angle is going to be 122 degrees. Okay. Now you need to find this angle. So you use triangle sum theorem again. These three have to add up to 180. So if these two add up to 149, this one's going to have to be 31. Okay. My best piece of advice that I can give you is that whenever you find your angle measures, write them down in the triangle so that way you can see it. It makes it make a lot more sense. Would you say, all that math there, all that work, and would you say that it kind of makes it confusing if we're not really seeing what we're doing? Now, for some of us, if we know exactly what we're doing, it makes sense. But it can kind of get confusing. So as soon as you find an angle measure, label that angle measure. Okay? Because I had some on their assignments. It would say this is 37, and it wants this angle here. Well, you had to go through and do some work to find that angle. So as soon as you find an angle measure, put it there. That way it makes it easier on you. All right. What questions do you have on the bell ringer? Yes, sir.
What do you want to do with last week's one?
We're about to get to that. Okay. Any questions over today's bell ringer? Okay. All right. So today, first thing we're going to do is any work that you need to turn in to me from AMI days or from the last week needs to go ahead and be turned in. AMI work was supposed to be due the day it was assigned on AMI. Work that you did not do during AMI will be counted as a 0, and you will be counted absent for that day if that work is not turned in. I understand some people have issues like internet connections, and some people even emailed me and told me, hey, I can't get my worksheet to email. I'm giving you today, right now, to turn in that work, and I will give you until tomorrow to turn in that work. Okay, so you'll have till tomorrow to turn in your AMI work. All right, so first, before you turn everything in, I'm going to show you everything that you're supposed to have turned in. Because some people did part of the assignment but didn't do the second part or didn't send something in with it. And if you don't do that part, then you're not going to get credit for any of the work you did. And I would hate for you to do all that work and not get credit for it just because you did not follow directions. Alright, so first thing is a couple people have not, that were absent that Friday before we were out, they have not come in to make up their test, their Chapter 5 test. You were supposed to do that Monday, Tuesday that we were here. However, some people did not, so I'm giving you until tomorrow to come in before school, after school, or during advisory to make up your Chapter 5 test. If you come today after school, you have to let me know ahead of time because, please pay attention, because I have tutoring and I will be in the library, but if you let me know, hey, Ms. Goodman, I'm coming in after school today to make up that test, I can take the test up there with me and you can come up there and meet with me and take your test. You can come in the morning before school, or you can come in tomorrow. You won't be able to come in tomorrow after school because I have a Scholar Bowl game. So you really need to come in like during advisory today, after school today, or in the morning before school to make up that Chapter 5 test. Also, the Chapter 5 test reflection was supposed to be turned in last week, so that's something else you'll need to turn in today, even if you didn't get it signed. If you did not meet your goal, you are required to take the retake. If you're required to do the test retake, you have been assigned to mandatory tutoring, and you're in mandatory tutoring until you do the Chapter 5 test retake review on Big Ideas, Chapter 5 test corrections, and then actually taking the Chapter 5 test. You will have until Friday to come in and get that done, okay? And you'll need to attend tutoring every day. Now, if you're just going to take the Chapter 5 test take just because you think you can do better, then you don't have to go to tutoring every day. You just have to go to one tutoring session and do the Chapter 5 test retake, test corrections, and then come in by Friday to retake the test. So you only have to go to one tutoring session if you're just doing it just to do it to get a better score. But if you're required to, you have to go every day until you come in to take your test. And you have before school, after school, or during advisory, or during tutoring to retake the test. And if you're going to retake the test, you need to let me know so I can assign you the test retake on Big Ideas Math. All right, so that's one thing I need is your test reflection. So even if you didn't get it signed, I need you to have that out, have it filled out, and you're going to pass it up in just a moment. Another thing I need is your bell ringer from that week, Monday and Tuesday bell ringer. You need to make sure your name's on it, and then in just a moment, you're going to pass that to the front as well. So far you need your test reflection and your bell ringer. All right, for your first AMI day, it says your assignment for today is 6.1 practice on Big Ideas Math. There will not be a Google Meet unless you need one for questions or help. Please email me if you have any questions. And then on 6.1 practice on Big Ideas, it told you that after you were done, you had to go in and do corrections on the ones you missed and email it to me. So on February 11th, I posted. Some people have not completed 6.1 practice on Big Ideas Math. You need to complete that ASAP. Also, some of you have not gone in and made corrections to the ones you missed. It was stated in the directions that you would need to go in and view the problems you missed and write those down on notebook paper and send those to me. You may title it 6.1 corrections, take a picture and email it to me. If you have questions or need help, please let me know by emailing me. If you just emailed me a piece of paper with some work on it, I couldn't do anything with it because I didn't know what it was for. You have to actually write the title on it and your name so that way I know what it is, okay? If you do not send me the test corrections, you do not get credit for the 6.1 practice on Big Ideas Math. That's part of the assignment. It's sending me the corrections on the ones you missed. So you go to submitted, click on each one you missed, write it down, and write the correct answer down. Okay, so you need to do that for 6.1 practice. If you have that paper, you can go ahead and get that paper out, title it 6.1 corrections, and write your name on it, and have it ready to turn in. Or if you have work for 6.1 practice. Can I need y'all to close your Chromebooks, please, just so I know everybody's paying attention to what I'm telling them to do. So that's the next thing you need to have is your 6.1 work for Big Ideas and your 6.1 corrections. Then, yes.
For work, it was just like simple.
Yeah, you might not have work.
Okay.
Yeah, you might not have work. All right, then for the 11th, you had an assignment on Boom Learning. It says your assignment for today is on boomlearning.com. You will use your school Google account to log on as a student. Your deck has already been assigned. Any work shown may be emailed to me labeled Boom Learning Activity. You may email me if you have any questions or need help. So if you emailed me work for this, it needs to be titled Boom Learning Activity. These are the people that have not turned it in yet. Let's see, Kaylee, Dylan, Luke, Randy, Nate, Carter, Noah, Daniel, Ryan, and Tyler. Okay, so that's the Boom Learning Activity. You need to make sure you get that submitted. Then, on February the 12th, you had a worksheet, Types of Triangles worksheet. complete the interactive worksheet. When finished, click finished and email to my teacher. So you'll click the button at the bottom that says finished, and then you'll click on email to my teacher. Type in your first and last name. For your grade or group level, you're going to type in your hour, first, third, sixth, or seventh. This is sixth hour. And for your subject, you're going to put geometry. And then for my email address, I give you my email address to type in, and then you submit it to me. Okay. The people that have not submitted that are Kaylee, Dylan, Drake, Luke, Randy, Emily, Carter, Noah, Daniel, Ryan, and Tyler. Okay, that was for Friday. Then for Wednesday, the next week on the 17th, your instructions for today are on this document. Please email me any questions you may have. When finished with the video, submit the form so that I know the assignment and notes have been completed. The notes I don't need. You just need to put them in your binder. It says, watch this video and take notes on notebook paper. You will need to draw the diagrams as well. The spaceship does not have to be exact. You could have just drawn the triangles for the spaceship. That would have been fine. This will be the next page of our notes, which was 6.2 congruent polygons. It was page 28. So you should have page 28 of your notes completed and in your binder from this video. That was Wednesday's work. Okay, and the last thing I posted, tomorrow is a snow day. There will not be any new assignments. However, you need to be making sure you have everything from last week and today completed. I will be grading AMI work over the next couple of days, and many of you still have missing work or have not emailed me a picture of your work. If you are having trouble completing or emailing your work, please email me. Let me know if you have any questions. So what I need now is everything we just talked about, everything that you have ready to be turned in. Make sure your name's on it. Make sure the title's on it. Pass it to the front row, pass it to the right. And you will have until tomorrow to get everything turned in. So tomorrow at the beginning of class, I will collect the work as well. So anything you didn't have ready to turn in now, you can turn it in tomorrow.
How are you for dinner tonight?
Pumping the 3-pound weights. Let's go. Getting the big guns.
All right, now I need you to close your Chromebooks and get out your notes. So that we can complete 6.2 notes, or start on 6.2 notes. This is going to be like 6.2 day 2. And this is going to be page 29 of your notes, page 29. So page 29, let's get our heads up, please. Page 29, and whenever you put it in your table of contents, I would put 6.2 congruent polygons continued, or 6.2 day 2, whatever you need to do. Oh yeah, can I show them this? Hey guys, this right here is the worksheet we did the Tuesday before we left. I need this worksheet as well. The 6.1 puzzle time worksheet. A lot of you have turned it in, but some of you have not. 6.1 puzzle time. I need that worksheet as well.
It's puzzle time.
There's a front and a back. Some people have not turned this in. A lot of you have, some of you have not. So if you did not turn in 6.1 puzzle time from February the 9th, the last Tuesday we were here, pass it to the front row, pass it to the right. Yes, yes, you get that.
Kindergarten, bro.
Okay, yes.
So, all of that is 25. What we're gonna after that.
You'll have to come to me after class and I can. Okay, page 29, 6.2 congruent polygons. Alright, let's stop our talking, please. You should be paying attention. Students will be able to identify and use corresponding parts of congruent polygons. So what exactly is corresponding parts? Okay, so notice there's some fill in the blank. Corresponding sides and corresponding angles of congruent figures are congruent. Okay, corresponding sides and corresponding angles of congruent figures are congruent. Okay, so notice the missing. Notice the missing words. You're going to have to fill in those missing words. Corresponding sides and corresponding angles of congruent figures are congruent.
You don't say.
All right, so what exactly are corresponding sides and corresponding angles? Notice that picture you have right below that has a bunch of stuff marked congruent. Okay. Over there to the right, I need you to write at the top under student notes, triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. And I put the picture over on the left side so that way you would have plenty of room to show your work and to write stuff down over there because we're going to have to write a few things down. Okay? All right, so in order for triangle ABC to be congruent to triangle DEF, what it means for those to be congruent. First thing I need you to write down, after you wrote, see how you wrote triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF?
Yeah.
That's what's known as a congruence statement. So label that as a congruence statement. So that way, whenever they tell you to write out a congruent statement, you'll know exactly what they're talking about. So triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF. Then it will tell you to list all of the corresponding parts. Okay, so that's what we're going to do next, is we're going to list all the corresponding parts. So right under your congruent statement, I need you to write corresponding parts. Now, corresponding parts means all angles and all sides. Since they're triangles, there's 3 angles and 3 sides. So you're going to have to list 3 sets of angles, 3 sets of sides. Now, whenever you do, I'm going to do angles first. You can look at it 2 different ways. You can figure out which ones are corresponding by either looking at your congruent statement. See how A is listed first? Well, it corresponds to the letter over here that's listed first, which is D. Now, if you look at the picture, see how A has 1 mark on it and D has 1 mark? That means they're congruent, which means they're corresponding. So you would write down that angle A is congruent to angle D. Then, the next set of angles that are congruent, notice how B is in the middle and E is in the middle? That means they're congruent. So angle B is congruent to angle E.
That's crazy.
See how B has 3 marks and E has 3 marks? That means they're congruent. And then the last set of angles are C and F. See how they're both listed last? That means they're congruent. Angle C is congruent to angle F. And I will pull that down for you so that way you can see that. Okay, you're going to want to write that over here where it gives you plenty of room because we've got to list all the angles and all the sides. Okay, so let's go ahead and list all those corresponding angles. All right, now we've got to list all the corresponding sides. Okay, now there's 2 different ways you can go about sides. You can either look at which ones are congruent. See how BC has 1 mark and EF has 1 mark? That means they're congruent. So for sides, you would say segment BC
This is a perfect circle.
is congruent to segment EF. And I could tell that because they each had 1 mark. Now, there's another way. Let's say that they're not marked. You can figure it out by looking at your congruent statement. See how BC are the last 2 letters? Look at where EF is located. They're also the last 2 letters. Wow. Now, 2. AB and DE both have 2 marks. So you would say that segment AB is congruent to segment ED.
Ed.
Now again, AB, see how AB is listed first? It's the first 2 letters. DE is also the first two letters over here. So you can go off of that. And then the third side is AC. Let me write it over here. AC is congruent to DF. Because they both have 3. But if you look here, see how AC is the first and third, and DF is the first and third?
Oh, no kidding, bro.
So it's always going to be the first 2, the last 2, and then the first and last. Okay, so these are all the corresponding parts. Alright, also, next thing, third angles theorem. The third angles theorem. You're going to have to listen closely because I didn't write this one on the board, so you're just going to have to listen. If 2 angles of one triangle are congruent to 2 angles of another triangle, then that automatically makes the third angles
Congruent.
congruent.
Oh, I knew it.
If 2 angles of one
Mind blowing.
triangle are congruent to 2 angles of another triangle, then the third one
This
is
is so far
automatically congruent. So in your picture, see how B and E are marked congruent and A and D are congruent? That automatically makes angle C congruent to angle F.
That's crazy.
So angle C is going to be congruent to angle F, bless you, and that's by third angle theorem.
That's
All right, let's do an example. It says, write a congruent statement for the triangles. Identify all pairs of congruent corresponding parts. Now, whenever you list your congruent statement, it doesn't matter the order that you do the first one in. You can do it in alphabetical order. You can do it in the order with which, like the number of rings, like 1, 2, 3. Or if one of them's the letter of your name and you want to put that one first, that one's okay also. The first order does not matter. So I like alphabetical, so I'm going to say triangle JKL is congruent to triangle. Now the second one does matter. The second one does matter. Whatever angle I put first here has to correspond to angle J. So look at angle J, it has 2 marks. So you need the one over here that has 2 marks, which is T. So T has to go first since I put J first. K has 3, so I have to do S next because it has 3.
wow.
And then L has 1, so I have to do R next, which has 1. So I have to put JKL is congruent to triangle TSR. Okay. So the first one, the order does not matter, but the second one does. It's based off of the first one. Okay. Now it says list all corresponding parts. Okay. That means all angles and all sides. You can either look off the picture or you can look off the congruent statement. I'm going to look off the congruent statement and I'm going to do angles first. J and T are in the same spot, so angle J is congruent to angle T. K would be congruent to S because they're both in the middle. And L would be congruent to angle R. Alright, we need to be writing this down. Okay, we're working right here. We're on this problem. Yours should look exactly like mine. You should have a congruent statement, and then you should have your angles written down. I wouldn't get too far ahead because it looks like we did not read directions carefully on that second one there. Those that are working ahead. Okay, now this is just the angles. Now you got to list the sides. You can either look at the picture or you can go off of the statement. JK is first, so it would be congruent to TS because it's listed first. So I would put segment JK is congruent to segment TS. And then KL is second, so it would go next. So segment KL is congruent to segment SR. And then it's first and last letter, so JL, segment JL, is congruent to segment TR. Okay, And you can also look at the picture. See how JK and both TS only have one?
Where did you put KLJ?
That's not how you name a segment. That's all the way back in chapter 1. Naming-
Triangle KLJ.
Oh, you're talking about your congruent
Yeah,
segment?
yeah.
Okay, then what should your second one be?
I'm like,
If you did KLJ, what order would this one be in?
SRT.
SRT.
Dodge Challenger.
See a J, the J still first though. That's how SRT sounds like.
He sure does.
Okay, let's do one together. It says, write another congruent statement for the triangles. Identify all pairs of congruent corresponding parts. See how it says another? That's because they've already given you one congruent statement. They want another one in a different order. So they had triangle ABCs congruent to triangle DEF. So we need to rewrite triangle ABC, but in a different order. Daniel, what order would you like me to write that in? Triangle CBA.
Always gotta be a little different.
Okay. It's congruent to triangle. Now, based off of CBA, now I have to redo this one. Kaylee, what would be the new order of triangle DEF? FED, perfect. Alright, now you need to list all the corresponding parts. Ryan, would you like to do the angles or the sides first? Okay, that's not
Neither. Let's do the angles first.
angles first. Okay, so Ryan, give me a set of angles that are congruent.
A and B.
You said angle A and D. So angle A is congruent to angle D. Dylan, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, now Dylan, give me another pair of angles.
See that?
Angle C and F. Harrison, you agree with that?
Yes.
And give me another set.
B and E.
Angle B and angle E. Noah, you agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so that's all three angles. Now let's do all three sides. Now, usually I would look to see which ones are marked the same, but they're not marked. So what I would do is, see how AB is listed first?
Uh-huh.
It's going to be congruent to the side here that's listed first, which is DE. So I put a mark on AB and a mark on DE, and I put AB congruent to segment DE.
Like, can't you just use the thing though?
Well, they don't have it marked. What, you mean just use this?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. All right, so that's the first set of sides that are congruent. Now, look at BC. Randy, what segment is BC going to be congruent to?
Yes.
Perfect, yeah, BC and EF is listed back that way, so there's EF. So BC would be congruent to EF. And the reason why I like to mark them, as you can see now, what are the only two sides that I have left to do, Logan?
ABC.
BC and
What side over here has not been marked?
AC.
And what side over here has not been marked?
Yeah.
DF. So AC is congruent to DF.
Wait, was going.
Sorry, I can't speak COVID.
Yes, sir.
Was going.
Bad call.
Why did we go back to using the first one?
It doesn't matter. You could have used this one, CB
Like,
and EF.
Oh.
CB and BC are the same. Yeah, it's all the way back from chapter 1. You can do it as segment BC or segment CB.
Okay.
Good question. All right, what other questions do you have for me?
Just the one.
Just the one, please.
Okay. Now, here's the next part. It says show, in the diagram, show that triangle PTS is congruent to triangle RTQ.
PTSD.
Now, in order to show something congruent, I need you to write this little note to yourself over there in the side corner of that box. To show that two triangles are congruent, or to show that anything's congruent, you need to show that all angles Show all angles and sides are congruent. So you need to show that every angle has a corresponding angle it's congruent to, and you need to show every side has something it's congruent to. Now, if a side or an angle has been marked for you, you don't have to write that down. Okay? So looking at this picture here, I see that segment PS has been marked to congruent to segment QR. So I don't have to say that. That's been done for me. ST is congruent to TQ. It's marked. I don't have to do anything. And then PT is congruent to TR. They're marked. I don't have to do anything. It's all been marked. So all three sides have been marked congruent. Let's get our heads up, please, so that way I know we're awake. Now what we need to do is work on showing that the angles are congruent. First thing you want to look at, are any of them marked? And none of them are marked congruent. Then let's look at, we have to somehow show that angle P and angle R are congruent. So that's this angle here and this angle here. First thing I always look for is to see, are they vertical? Well, no, they're not vertical. They're not sharing a vertex. Next thing I look for, what do these two arrows, triangles mean? Parallel lines. And anytime you have parallel lines and a transversal, you have alternate interior angles. So you would write down that angle P is congruent to angle R because they are alternate interior angles. And you've got to write the reasoning why.
Can I abbreviate?
Yes, you can abbreviate. If you notice, I also abbreviate. So alternate interior angles. So those two are congruent because alternate interior angles. Now notice this says T and T. Well, I can't use T because it's two different angles.
Same.
So here's this angle, which is PTS. So I have to show that angle PTS is congruent to angle QTR.
Oh wait, this says RTQ.
RTQ is fine. But angle QTR and RTQ is the same angle. Wow. Would you say that, is there a theorem or something that tells me that these two angles are congruent?
The same triangle pointed theorem.
No, they're vertical. It's because they're vertical.
It's the same thing, guys. Trust me. I have a doctorate in this.
Okay, and then the last thing is angle S and angle Q. Is there anything that I can use for, this is teacher model. Now, for angle S is congruent to angle Q, there's two different things I could use here. There are either alternate interior angles, that's one of them, or you could even say by third angle theorem, because you've already proven two of them are congruent, so you could say this one because of third angle theorem.
How about that?
That one
So you could have either said third angle theorem, or you could have said alternate interior angles. So with angles, those are what you're going to look for. Vertical, alternate interior, and third angle theorem.
What about the other two?
You mean like alternate exterior?
No. First angle theorem, second angle theorem.
Oh, there's not a first and second angle theorem.
Why is it called third angle?
Because if two angles are congruent, then the third angles are congruent.
That don't make no sense.
All right, let's look at the next one. Show that triangle ABD is congruent to triangle CDB. Explain your reasoning. All right, so let's do the sides first. I already see that AD is marked congruent to BC, and I see that AB is marked congruent to CD. I need to figure out if this third side is congruent. So let's see, that was AB and AD. I need to show that BD is congruent to DB. Would segment BD be congruent to segment DB? Yeah, it's the same segment. Here's segment BD. And then here's segment DB. It's the exact same line. So of course it's going to be congruent. Your reasoning that you would put there is reflexive property. Reflexive. Anytime you have to say something is congruent to itself, it's called reflexive property. Okay, so you need to write that Segment BD is congruent to segment DB, and that's because of reflexive property. Okay, it's written right here on the board. And it should also be written right there on your paper right beside that. Wow. Right there. Alright, now I need to show that all the angles are. How many angles are already marked congruent?
All of them.
They only got 2. I need to show that this one is congruent to this one here. Yep, so I can either say that, and you can't use D and B because there's multiple angles there. I can say angle ADB is congruent to angle CBD. And someone said by third angle theorem, which is completely okay. And then someone else said by alternate interior because these 2 lines are parallel. So these would be alternate interior angles. So you could do either one. Either one's fine. You can either use third angle theorem or alternate interior angle theorem.
ADB and CBD are white, because why? The congruent why?
Because of the third angle theorem. Because 2 of the angles are marked congruent, so that automatically makes the third angle congruent. Or you could say by alternate interior angles, because these 2 are alternate interior angles, so they would be congruent. Because BC and AD are parallel. Show that triangle ABC is congruent to triangle CBA. Drake, how many sets of angles are already marked congruent? 2. So can I go ahead and say that this angle is congruent to this angle? By what theorem? What theorem says if 2 angles are congruent, then that makes the third angle congruent? Would you agree with them that it's third angle theorem? Yeah, so the third angle theorem on the very first page said if 2 angles are congruent, then the third angles are congruent. So that would be by third angle theorem. Okay? Now I need to show that all 3 sides are congruent. All right, Tyler, how many sides are marked congruent?
4.
Well, you've got how many sets of sides?
2.
2. So I need to show the third side. So I have AD and BC, DC and AB. I need to show that AC is congruent to CA. Would y'all say that AC is congruent to CA?
Yeah.
Why?
It's reflexive. Oh my
It's
god.
by reflexive property.
Whose property?
Everything is congruent to itself. If you were to look in a mirror, your reflection would be the exact image of you. Okay.
Bro.
Alright, what questions do you have so far? Let's not put our stuff away yet. Alright, let's look at this one. It says,
Right angle.
find the measure of angle P. Well, I noticed right away that angle C was a right angle, which means it's 90 degrees. And angle Q is a right angle, which means it's 90 degrees. Alright. Hey guys, you're going to have to write this down and people aren't going to be allowed to leave until we finish this, so I will start writing it down. Then I noticed that angle A is 52 and it's marked congruent to angle R, so it would automatically be 52 as well. Now, if this is 90 and this is 52, And I know that all three angles add up to 180. I can do 90 plus 52,
142. 142.
which is 142.
338.
Then you do 180 minus 142, and you get 38 degrees for angle P. Now, I have a question. What if they were to ask me the measure of angle B? Do I need to go through and do the math? Or do we already know the answer?
We already know.
What's the answer? 38 degrees by third angle theorem.
Tap down.
Get it.
All right. What questions do you have for me?
How do I make a loan on my vehicle?
Alright, make sure you show your work.
So give me a second.
I do have a question. How do I make a loan on a vehicle?
You get a bank to approve you or, one of their.
What if I don't have, what if I don't have credit score, period?
Do drugs and you can.
I want to raise my credit.
Drugs you want to buy with cash.
Alright, hang on guys, not everybody did their notes, y'all need to have a seat. Have a seat.
No, I'm trying to hold my bladder.
I really get
Where's
people.
yours tomorrow? I need to see your notes.
But that would go.
I'm not as relaxing as I thought I was.
What are you doing? Zero out here?
I don't want to watch that work.
Exactly.
I think I might.
Alright, you get it? You get those others as
That's
well.
not what
Alright, make sure you turn in your calculators and get your phones and have a good day.
Oh!
It's retarded.